Strategies for Real Estate, a 30-minute program updating you on today's real estate market and discussing current issues and opportunities in the desirable Silicon Valley. Plus, interviews with real estate experts giving you insight on what's to come. With your hosts, Tracy Knapp and Dan Lawson. And now, Strategies for Real Estate.
Hello and welcome to our show. I'm Dan Lawson. I'm very happy you're with us tonight. This is our first show of the year, and we hope to produce wonderful programs for you so you learn and feel connected to our program and maybe find a little better path for yourself throughout the year. We'll start our program off with our real estate climate segment. Kelly Hunt from CSR Real Estate is my guest, and she and I are going to be talking about the data information available to people online and blending that with an experienced realtor and the benefit and enhancement one gets by blending both. We'll then go to our weekly spotlight. Truly, I have an angel with me today on this show. Her name is Jo Greiner, and she's the outreach director at St. Luke's Pantry. And the work that she and that group do there is just remarkable, and I'm so happy she's going to be on my program today to talk about that. And then we'll end our program with our viewer mail segment. Steve Smith from The Enlightened Mind. He and I will be talking about the challenge to live a life of love. So you want to stay tuned for that segment. So it's now time for our real estate climate. Hello and welcome to our real estate climate segment. It's now my pleasure to introduce a familiar face to Strategies for Real Estate, Kelly Hunt. Thanks for being with us again, Kelly.
Hi, Dan. Thanks for having me back.
I'm really happy you are. This is our first show, and I'm really happy to kick it off with someone as talented and as informed as you.
Well, I feel honored to be your first guest.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. Well, let's talk about this. I know it's very interesting. I see it in the lending side, and I know you see it on the real estate side. It's the amount of information people get online, and the web is an unbelievable instrument, but it's not the end-all, be-all for real estate.
Correct.
Yeah. What are your thoughts?
Well, it's a great tool, but I think what we find now is because of all the information that people have available to them, that buyers and sellers are basically artificially empowered, meaning they think they're getting information that's going to help them to buy a home, which ideally it is, but there's a lot of information out there that isn't necessarily accurate. For example, a lot of people, including realtors, will go to Zillow and Trulia and things like that, and those are great tools to have for just some generic information. But I, to this day, don't know personally of any realtors that use those particular sites for comparing properties to get a real accurate idea. But again, they're great for getting some general information, but it's not necessarily the tool that you would use to market your home or determine what you should market your home for.
I mean, it's like putting your toe in the water before you jump in.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, it gives you a lot of general information, but again, a lot of the articles out there, you don't know who the authors are. Many times people are writing about real estate and they've never actually even sold a home. They may be very familiar with sales, but they're not familiar with selling a home. So you just don't know as a consumer what is actually accurate and what's not. So I think it's very important for people to connect up with a live body, an experienced realtor who can tell them, what is accurate for their particular area and their situation.
And case in point is, that old adage, information is power. But, if you don't have the knowledge about, well, this unit has maybe budgetary problems with their homeowner association or litigation or different elements of the property. I don't know. I'll leave it for you to make additional comment on that.
Well, again, you don't necessarily know what's accurate. You don't even necessarily know what you need to find out. So you're not necessarily getting negotiating skills when you read things online. That's something that, as a realtor, we get more and more experience as we do transactions. This year was actually a year that I had a lot of really tough negotiating transactions.
Yeah, about 2013.
Yes, exactly. I should say last year. But you need to have someone who's experienced in that. If you buy or sell a home every 6 or 7 years, you're not an expert in that area. Correct. You're familiar with that particular time, but not necessarily right now what the market conditions are.
That's absolutely spot on. I think it's also interesting that a lot of people think the value of a professional in any field is just the information that one can read online.
Right.
And It's interesting how often when you're a listing agent, when someone comes that you've never worked with, you start to wonder, well, I wonder if they're really someone I can trust as far as another realtor.
Right.
And as much as I know about real estate, one time in my life when it was really busy, I thought I'll self-represent, and I got passed over. You know, and I've been doing this for at the time it was over 20 years.
Right.
And I tried to buy a house. My wife said, "Come on, you're licensed. Let's just do it. We won't use a realtor." And I was hesitant, and I thought, "Okay, well let's just see what happens."
Right.
And I didn't even get a counteroffer.
Right.
4 or 5 other people did.
Right.
So I didn't even get a pitch to strike out.
Well, especially in this particular market, you have to be very good at negotiating skills. Like I said, presenting your offers, writing an offer in an appropriate way that's going to appeal to a seller. And a buyer isn't necessarily going to know that. And typically, when you have situations where there's a for sale by owner, for example, buyers don't realize a lot of those sellers have some sort of real estate background, or the seller is connected with someone who has a real estate license. So they're usually getting some sort of advice, and the buyer is really the one who is at the mercy of what they know. And it's, generally speaking, it's going to be limited.
Right.
So you want to rely on an expert.
That's too important. Buying a house is too expensive. It's too important. You know, I suppose maybe if cars continue to become more and more expensive, maybe they'll have car representatives.
But the house is still
in the
most
meantime,
expensive.
Yeah. There's so many things to understand and know and do. And what's interesting, and we talk about this week after week, the different reasons why. In fact, we point to different things when I have experts like yourself on the show to hear about what some of those things are that have our audience think, no, this is confirmation or why it should be a confirming point that they should use a professional.
Well, an example is I've gone out with buyers to see a home that they've seen 2 or 3 times before they came to me. And they're ready to go, they want to write an offer, and I go out to the property and I start walking around and I start pointing out all the different things about the property. Now, they've already been there a couple of times, and they know it needs a little bit of work. But I go in and really try to help them see the things that they're going to need to do, things that are probably going to come up on the reports and inspections. And after the fact, they're really kind of disheartened because they didn't realize or they didn't notice all these different things that they really just didn't know to look for.
And once you move into a home, you start finding them anyway.
Absolutely.
You know, so you have an objective eye.
Yes.
Let's say a couple or even a single person is looking at a home.
Right.
You get sort of connected, and that juice starts going. You think, oh, good, I'm going to buy a house. yeah, it's positioned really nicely.
Exactly.
And it doesn't mean that you're talking people out of that house.
Right.
You're identifying things that become a negotiation point for you.
And that's the key thing. It's not that we're here to direct you as to what house to buy and what house not to buy. It's to really make sure that we're pointing out what to be aware of. Here's the pros, here's the cons with each individual home. Yeah,
good points. Well, we've got a few minutes left, and I wanted to challenge you a bit, or at least ask your opinion about what can buyers and sellers expect going into 2014?
Well, you know, as you know, the inventory is still record lows. It's for the past 5 years, the inventory has been dropping pretty steady.
Yes.
So that's made it difficult for buyers, but that doesn't mean it's not a good time to buy. So some of the things that we're dealing with, of course, is low inventory with a high demand. But I don't necessarily see that changing anytime soon. So I think that if buyers want to get into a home, now's probably a good time to do it. The rates, as you know, are still pretty low, but we do anticipate that those are going to continue to rise as the economy gets stronger. It's
sort of a measured increase. I mean, they are starting to escalate a bit. I mean, it's no time to panic, and it seems like they're measuring that increase in a friendly way that's not going to just stall this market, which would be awful.
The problem, though, is we're a global economy. So what we can't predict is what's going to happen elsewhere that does impact our stock market and the interest rates.
Yeah.
So.
And the same point as well I'll make is it's when you talk about the global elements that come into play, the global elements that may not be impacting us and affecting us, getting back to our prior topic about having someone, a local realtor, who does have their finger on a pulse of what's occurring in a particular market.
Right.
You know, not only just Santa Clara County, but many have farms that they use, as the term goes, and they are very, very clued in with those areas.
Right.
And you might read an article that it doesn't specify, but it could be Livermore or it could be Ohio.
Exactly.
And how do you know? And you're going into an expectation thinking you're going to negotiate based on that
article that you read.
That material you read. And it can really derail you, and you won't get accepted.
Our market is very different here, so it's very important, I think, for people to find out what the stats are for this particular area, what the comparable sales are for this particular area, and how the market is operating. We have a lot of multiple offer situations. So you have people come into first-time home buyers, for example, who aren't really aware of what the current market conditions are. And, you know, first thing out the gate, they want to undercut sales price, you know, the
Because
list
they
price.
think that's what they should do.
They
and-
say that's what my dad told me
Yeah.
I'm supposed to do.
That's right.
But that's not the market right now.
Well, Gil Kelly, I wanted to talk more about what's coming in 2014. We're going to leave it there. You know, thank you for your comments and your thoughts. Always appreciate it. We'll have you on again. Let's push it out a couple of months, and we'll have you back on. We'll
Looking forward
take
to
a
it.
look what's going on in the summer.
Thanks.
Thanks for being with us. I hope you.